Today I'm going to talk about basically on-chain governance, why it matters, what it is, and why it's really the future of blockchain and blockchain applications. So just for reference, basically, whenever you build a blockchain or like a DApp or smart contract or whatever, all that technology is basically immutable. You can't change it. You can't do anything to upgrade it if things go wrong. And they exist only as code. There is no unless you build it into it, there is no awareness of the human-based economics of the outside world, basically outside of the blockchain. The outside world is of course always unpredictable. So there's a lot of different situations that can potentially make you go back to the drawing board and think, oh, I need to rewrite how this smart contract, how this decentralized application actually works because something about the outside world changed. I could have got bought out by an external company, you have a DApp and it gets bought out by Microsoft or something. There's also the whole government, the U.S. government could start imposing limitations and regulation and everything on these decentralized apps. And also, of course, the blockchain can just become more busy. It can just become more expensive to use. And you might need to reevaluate if your decentralized app is actually economical to use, if people are willing to use it and pay the transaction fees. So traditional companies, of course, have their own kind of governance. You have the CEO, the middle managers, and then the actual employees and things like that. In a blockchain application, that structure is, you might have a company that has that kind of structure, but that kind of structure doesn't really exist on the blockchain for most applications. So you basically have a mesh of all these different parties that contribute their own piece to the ecosystem, but there is no this person is above this other person. And that's one of the really cool things about blockchain, to be honest. But also it raises some problems whenever you have these decentralized apps and smart contracts and everything that you're trying to make a business out of and help power the world with it. So on-chain governance just is basically taking governance structures the whole order of command type stuff and bringing it into the blockchain, making it so that basically you can have a protocol for how to actually change these blockchain applications like decentralized apps. And the parties that participate in that governance can be anyone. It depends on the exact application. It can be token holders. It can be developers. It can be miners or stakers or validators. And also, on-chain governance is basically an opt-in system. So if you're using a decentralized app and they change something about it through governance, then you by default are affected by that. You can, of course, opt out and basically use the old version of the contract somehow, kind of like how Ethereum and Ethereum Classic happened. But that's pretty unusual, and it really depends on the exact circumstances. But so just for a little history over on-chain governance, the earliest one, of course, started with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a thing called the BIP signal system thing. And that's basically where miners that are making the blocks, pushing forward the blockchain, can actually put a flag in and say, I will support this feature that has been proposed. So the famous one for that is SegWit. So there is no forcing of it. And miners can actually say, oh, I'll support it, and then when it comes time to support it, they can drop out. So there's no enforcement of that. It's just basically, this is kind of the general feel of the community of the block creators. A more powerful version of this whole on-chain governance system is Ethereum's gas limit voting. So gas is basically the thing that it's basically transaction fees in Ethereum, and determines how many transactions a block can hold in Ethereum. So I actually see like it's changed over the years. And that's actually done by the miners. They can basically vote to increase it or decrease it. And so basically all the miners and everything are the only ones that have any kind of say in this kind of system, though. And so there's kind of like some game theory type stuff that, well, maybe they should make the gas limit lower so that less transactions happen, because the transaction fee for each transaction will be higher, kind of like the block size debate of Bitcoin. That's definitely possible, but still, it's like kind of like the first thing that can change actual protocol parameters on the blockchain without having to fork the blockchain or anything like that. And there's also like a project called Tezos, which I'm sure quite a few of you have probably heard of, but they are going like the extreme route and basically making it to where the core protocol of the blockchain, almost everything about it, can be changed through governance and through on-chain governance, so that people vote for some change and it happens, and there is no like fork or anything like that. So I'm at QTUM, and so we built a decentralized governance protocol. And just for reference, QTUM is like a blockchain smart contract platform similar to Ethereum. You can build decentralized apps on it, and many people already have. We've already been launched and everything else for months now. But anyway, we built a protocol called decentralized governance. And basically, what this allows you to do is to actually to change certain blockchain parameters on the QTUM blockchain. And like one of the examples is like the block size. So we can actually have it to where people come forward, vote, okay, the block size has been too small, there's not enough transactions or whatever, and we can vote for it to be increased, and it is increased, and the ecosystem stays the same as it was, other than being able to fit more transactions into a block. There is no fork, there is no software upgrade needed, anything like that. But it's also designed more conservatively than like the Tezos approach, where basically we designed it so that even if it's completely compromised, the blockchain is still safe. But anyway, we're trying, this governance protocol is actually written as a Solidity smart contract. And so we're trying to allow for decentralized apps and everything else to actually take this technology and use it in their own dApps. And one of the things is like it has a wide variety of parties that can potentially participate, and that includes even smart contracts themselves. So in the future, you could, in theory, have an AI-based smart contract that says, like, for example, okay, I've been watching the blockchain. In the past 10,000 blocks have been 95% full. I vote that we increase the block size because it looks like the block size is too small. Of course, that needs to be checked by human actors, but like that's one of the things that kind of streamlines the process of getting everyone to agree on minor changes like that. And also, it's very flexible governance protocol. Like it can be completely replaced at any time, and also you can even have like multi-tiered like board member. Each separate board must vote on this or whatever. And basically, we want to bring all this to smart contracts because right now I feel like there's a real underutilization of governance in smart contracts. Most of them tend to have like, oh, it has an owner that has a private key. That's about it. And we really need like, if we're building decentralized applications, single centralized owner isn't really going to be decentralized. And also, I mean, the ones that do have some governance actually tend to use direct democracy, which, you know, is like like in a token, you know, every token gets one vote. But, you know, that kind of concept doesn't really capture the entire ecosystem, because, you know, you might have some investor that has 10 million tokens, but you also might have a coffee shop owner that uses the network every day, but they have to cash out their tokens in dollars or whatever so that they can pay expenses. They don't keep a lot of tokens, so they would be excluded from this voting process, basically. And so we need like a more complex structure, like including like representative boards and things like this, similar to like real governance in countries like the U.S. government or whatever. And also there's like different governance layers that these decentralized apps and smart contracts need to be aware of. You know, there's like the overall blockchain governance, like for us, that's the QTUM governance and how that protocol works. And then there's also like if you use a state chain or a side chain for managing your decentralized app for off-chain transactions, then you have to deal with the governance built into that system. And then you, of course, have your local smart contract governance as well that, you know, is like your company or whatever that's managing this decentralized app and can hand over control if needed or anything. Basically, the smart contract governance needs to be like aware of like these external changes that can happen, and you know, aware of the greater ecosystem around it. And so I believe the next step is basically giving talks like these, telling people use governance, because you know you can't really plan for the future, and governance is a way to basically make sure that you can always change things in the future and do it in a fair and decentralized way. Of course, depending on your exact application. And you know, I believe that every, or almost every at least, well, yeah, every blockchain application actually requires some kind of governance. Like even completely decentralized ones, like the DAO, for instance, needs to have some way of being upgraded to, and it did, but, and also, you know, smart contracts and everything need to be aware of the governance that is external to them, and aware and able to adapt to, you know, the ever-changing external world that is life. So yeah, you can find out more information about the decentralized governance protocol and all that kind of stuff at QTUM.org. And again, I'm Jordan Earls, and thanks for everyone for being here.